Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Wednesday, July 15th, 2020. Today I'm going to discuss the latest big name MLB free agent to sign with a couple of injuries and opt-outs to this particular team. We will talk about which players got NFL contract extensions and which did not. Go over the KBO games from this morning, look ahead to tomorrow's games. Go over the results from soccer and look ahead to today's games in Premier League and MLS. I'll give you a pick for the Memorial Tournament coming up this weekend. I'll give you a pick for the NASCAR All-Star Open and the All-Star Race for tonight, and I'll do my MLB second baseman rankings. We'll start with Major League Baseball news. Yasiel Puig signed with the Atlanta Braves on a one-year deal. This was a smart signing by Atlanta. Nick Markakis opted out. The starting left fielder was supposed to be Adam Duvall. Adam Duvall is known for a great run he had in 2016 with the Cincinnati Reds after coming over in that trade with the San Francisco Giants 5 years ago back, and then he just wasn't the same, and then the Braves picked him up as like a fourth outfielder, and then he was supposed to be their starting outfielder. And Yasiel Puig, to me, has more upside and is a better option in left field than Adam Duvall. And also their top prospect, Christian Pache, suffered an ankle injury, so he's not going to be able to start the season. So that's a big loss for them because I think the Braves are counting on him to be their starting left fielder. But now it looks like it's going to be Yasiel Puig. And I think in a short season, if he puts up solid numbers, then maybe somebody can talk into giving him a long-term contract in the offseason. But the issue is that his antics and his immaturity and behavior problems is what's spooking teams away from signing him. So I think this can work. The Braves are a team that I think treats their players very well, and they're very strict. I think that Brian Snitker is a manager that could be very disciplined. Don't forget, he benched Ronald Acuna in a playoff game for not hustling out a double after thinking he was a home run. So Puig better put his game face on and play the way the game is supposed to be played. So I think that this could be a boom or bust, and I think it's more likely to be boom because I think that he wants to motivate people, and the Braves are a good team, and I just pretty much like the fit, and it makes a lot of sense. Now I'm going to talk about NFL contract extensions that were given out. One, Myles Garrett, 5 years, $125 million. I was surprised that he got paid this soon. I think this was a premature extension due to his antics from last season and the fact that he's suspended to start the season, if I'm not mistaken. But he's a very talented player. He's somebody that was the number one overall pick in the draft back in 2017 and was at the time perceived as the no doubt about it number one overall pick. But let's face it, the Browns should have taken Deshaun Watson or Patrick Mahomes there, and obviously more likely Mahomes because he already has a ring and an MVP, and Deshaun Watson got hurt already, although he's still a darn good quarterback. But yeah, Myles Garrett is a great player, but like I said, his antics from last year, I think that the Browns really should have made him earn it, and I think that they were under some pressure to get this done, so I think that's why they did it. But like I said, a little premature, but it's not something that, like I said, I wouldn't have rushed to do it, but it's something that had to be done, but not for another year or so. That's all. And then the other big contract extension was given to Derrick Henry of the Tennessee Titans, a 4-year $50 million, my bad, extension, $25.5 million guaranteed. Derrick Henry deserved his contract extension. He was awesome last year in the Titans' run to the AFC Championship game. I think that he really has shut up a lot of people that say that running backs don't matter in today's NFL. They do matter in today's NFL, and it's important that some running backs have the ability to catch out of the backfield like a Christian McCaffrey or a Saquon Barkley or an Alvin Kamara. So I do think that it was important for the Titans to get this done, and Derrick Henry is a good player. Obviously, like I said, helped lead the Titans to the AFC title game, arguably one of the best, if not the best, running back in the NFL right now. The Titans weren't a bad team the year before either, as they lost in Week 17 at home to the Colts, and that was the wild card deciding game, the winner-go-home game. But Marcus Mariota was their quarterback at the time, and not Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill was still on the Dolphins then, and obviously we all know what happened to the Titans last year once they switched to Ryan Tannehill as their quarterback. A player that did not get a contract extension was Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott. This is a bit of a problem because this is going to be a lingering storyline all year because he's the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, who are supposed to be the favorites in the NFC East this year, with Mike McCarthy there and Ezekiel Elliott back and Amari Cooper back and Prescott on the tag. They are a team that's under immense pressure to perhaps go to the Super Bowl this year. Like, that's how high expectations are in Dallas this season. And so Dak Prescott was among 12 players with the franchise tag after being unable to reach a long-term deal. So maybe Dallas will tag him again in the winter. And they are thinking to themselves that he has to prove it. But here's my argument for that. And I think that Prescott should have been paid. A quarterback in his very own division has been injury prone the last couple years, ever since he torn his ACL. And I'm talking about Carson Wentz, has been nothing but injury prone ever since he torn his ACL. He has not won a playoff game. He got injured in the playoff game last year, and he got paid because of how good he was before he tore his ACL. That's what got him that contract extension. I guess the Cowboys, like Stephen Jones and Jerry Jones, my gut feeling is that they're not convinced that he is a franchise-level quarterback. Listen, I don't think he is Patrick Mahomes, but he's on that second tier, arguably, with Lamar Jackson and Deshaun Watson. He's still very young. He has a lot of weapons. And you could make a case that they made a mistake in paying Amari Cooper because, in defense, they didn't know that CeeDee Lamb was going to fall to their laps in the draft. I absolutely think that Amari Cooper is going to be traded next offseason, and they're going to give Dak Prescott the extension. That's where they screwed up a little bit. The fact that they paid Amari Cooper. Although Amari Cooper's a great receiver and he's a great fit for Dak Prescott, but I do think CeeDee Lamb is poised to be their number one receiver going forward, in the draft really made themselves have an opportunity here. So what I think is going to happen is that I do think Dak will get paid in February. They're going to trade Amari Cooper to a team that needs a wide receiver like the Jets or somebody like that. And then maybe it'll be Amari Cooper for Jamal Adams or something like that. That would be an outstanding trade for the Dallas Cowboys and for the Jets if they pulled that off. Because let's face it, Sam Darnold needs weapons, and Dallas needs some help in their secondary after losing Byron Jones. So there's some pressure on the Cowboys to make some moves here in the offseason, even though we didn't even start our next offseason, even though we didn't even start this season yet. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Cowboys do. I just threw out that Amari Cooper, Jamal Adams thing, and maybe a couple picks going towards each side. Like maybe the Jets get a first and the Cowboys get a second or something like that. I think 2 picks should be involved in that trade as well. So the other players that didn't get tagged, Cincinnati's A.J. Green, makes some sense. Denver's Justin Simmons. Jacksonville's Yannick Ngakoue, who I think is going to be traded before the season. New England's Joe Thuney, who I don't think they'll trade now with Cam Newton in the fold. Washington's Brandon Scherff. Obviously, Scherff is somebody that's a good lineman, and I think he'll eventually be paid. The Chargers is Hunter Henry. Pittsburgh's Bud Dupree. New York Giants' Leonard Williams. That was a disastrous trade, which we'll get to on another show. Minnesota's Anthony Harris. Baltimore's Matthew Judon. And Tampa Bay's Shaq Barrett. I think some of these guys are going to be traded. I think that Judon, could potentially go. And honestly, I won't be surprised if the Giants are not good again this year. I won't be shocked if Leonard Williams is traded just to make up for your mistake. Why not? I think they should trade Leonard Williams, to be quite honest. Joe Thuney, I think New England should keep Joe Thuney. I was screaming trade Joe Thuney a month ago, but Cam Newton was not on the roster a month ago. Cam Newton's there now. Now you don't trade Joe Thuney. Jacksonville has to trade Yannick Ngakoue. He doesn't want to play there. I think that they should trade him to Philadelphia or to Dallas or to Minnesota, because those 3 teams need some edge rushers. So I think that those 3 teams would be really good fits for Yannick Ngakoue. And then Bud Dupree is somebody that had a good year last year, but really wasn't good before last year. So I don't think Pittsburgh was willing to pay him, and they're a smart organization. Hunter Henry, I don't think Los Angeles is going to trade him or keep him long term. They need to pay Joey Bosa, and they have to pay some other guys down the road as well. And then Chris Jones and Derrick Henry got paid, as we talked about. And then one more note before we move on. The deadline today did not apply to Kenyon Drake of the Cardinals, who was the only player designated under the transition tag, and he is permitted to negotiate with the Cardinals throughout the season. I like Kenyon Drake. I think he's a good player. I think that he is somebody that is going to be the lead back for the Cardinals this year, and Kyler Murray, and will be a big part of that revamped offense. Now I'm going to go over the KBO results from this morning and look ahead to the games for tomorrow. So, without further ado, here we go. You had the Tigers over the Lions 5-2, the Twins over the Giants 9-3, the Heroes over the Dinos 7-4, the Bears over the Wyverns 7-2, and the Eagles over the Wiz 7-3. Tomorrow, all games at 5:30 a.m. Eastern, 6:30 p.m. out in Korea. You have the Dinos at the Heroes. I think the Dinos are going to bounce back and win here. They lost their last 2 games, so I think they'll get it done to avoid a sweep. The Wyverns and the Bears are just better than the Wyverns, so I think the Bears will get it done. The Twins and the Giants, I think that the Giants will bounce back after losing, so give me the Giants. You have the Eagles at the Wiz. I'm going to take the Wiz here. They're just flat out better than the Eagles. The Eagles are the worst team in the league. And then the Tigers and the Lions. I think the Lions are going to bounce back here and beat the Tigers and win 2 out of 3 games here to win this little series going on. Now I'm going to go over the Premier League games from yesterday and look ahead to today's games. Actually, only one game yesterday. Chelsea over Norwich City, 1-0. Chelsea with the much-needed victory, 19-6-11 with 63 points. on the season. Norwich City drops to 5, 6, and 25 with 21 points. 4 games today, 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Newcastle hosting Tottenham. Newcastle 11, 10, and 14 with 43 points. Tottenham 14, 10, 11 with 52 points. I'm going with Tottenham here. They're the better team. They're the better goal-scoring team. So give me Tottenham on the road to get the job done. Also at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, you have Burnley and Wolves. Burnley is 14, 8, and 13 with 50 points. Wolves 14, 3, and 8 with 55 points. I am going to go with Wolves here. They're just better all around. So give me Wolves on the road against Burnley. 1 o'clock p.m. you have Manchester City and Bournemouth. Bournemouth coming off the win against Leicester City. Manchester City coming off the dominant win over Brighton. Manchester City is home, and they're 23, 3, and 9 with 72 points. And Bournemouth 8, 7, and 20 with 31 points. Obviously, Bournemouth coming off the upset win. This is a classic letdown spot on the road at Manchester City. So give me Manchester City. They're going to win this game by multiple goals. And last but not least, 3:15 p.m. Eastern Time, you have Arsenal hosting Liverpool. Arsenal 12, 14, and 9 with 50 points. Liverpool 33 and 12 with 93 points. I like how Arsenal is playing. Other than the defeat against Tottenham, they've won 5 of their last 6 games. I think they lost to Tottenham maybe because they were looking ahead to this match against Liverpool. And Liverpool has really nothing to play for. So, guess what? I'm going with the home upset here with Arsenal over Liverpool. So, I think Arsenal's going to get it done. Bounce back from the loss against Tottenham, led by Nicolas Pepe and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. So, give me Arsenal FC to knock off Liverpool. So, that's going to be a huge upset, and I'm calling it. Now I'm going to go over yesterday's Major League Soccer games and look ahead to tonight's game and tomorrow morning's game. The Orlando City defeated NYCFC 3-1. Orlando City scored in the 4th minute of the game on a goal by Chris Mueller. And then Chris Mueller scored again in the 10th minute to put them up 2-0. And then NYCFC scores their first goal of the season, let alone the tournament, in the 38th minute of the match. And that goal was scored by Jesus Medina to get them within 2-1. And then in the 81st minute to seal the deal, Orlando City SC got a goal to put them up 3-1 by Tyler Ankedy to put them up 3-1, and they put it away and get the victory as they go to 2-0 Tesho Akindele to get themselves their second win of the tournament. Philadelphia defeated Inter Miami 2-1. Philadelphia scored 5 minutes into the game on a goal by Kai Wagner, the defensive player, for them to go up 1-0. Inter Miami ties the game in the 36th minute on a goal by Rodolfo Pizarro. Philadelphia in the second half in the 63rd minute goes up 2-1 on a goal by Kasper Przybylko. And then in extra time, in the 99th minute, Andres Reyes, the defender, gets red carded as Philadelphia hangs on for a 2-1 victory. So I went 1-1 last night with the picks. Tonight at 9 o'clock p.m., you have Vancouver against San Jose. Vancouver has 0 points, and San Jose has 1 point as they got a draw against Seattle in their first match. In this match, I'm going to go with San Jose for the win. I picked them to advance in Group F, so I think they'll get it done tonight to get their first win of the MLS's back tournament. Tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern, you have Atlanta United against Cincinnati, a Group B match. Are they Group B or... Group E. I think Atlanta United gets their first win of the tournament. They're coming off a loss to the New York Red Bulls. And I think that they're going to come out strong and get this victory against a hapless Cincinnati team. So give me Atlanta to bounce back and get their first win of the MLS's back tournament against Cincinnati. Now I'm going to preview and predict the Memorial Tournament, which will be taking place between tomorrow and Sunday. Should be a really fun tournament. All the big names are in it, including Tiger Woods, who was 26-1 on DraftKings, if I'm not mistaken. Brooks Koepka was like 22-1. Bryson DeChambeau and Justin Thomas are co-favorites at plus 950. Rory McIlroy was like 11-1. I think that Justin Thomas, DeChambeau, and McIlroy should all be 10-1 favorites. But you could have even talked me into DeChambeau being plus 1050 or 11-1, because I'm not a DeChambeau fan, and I think that McIlroy and Justin Thomas should be favorites over them. But if anything, those three should be co-favorites. A lot of big names are going very early tomorrow morning, such as Mark Hubbard in the 7 o'clock hour, as well as Scotty Scheffler, Jordan Spieth, Bubba Watson, Ian Poulter. In the 8 o'clock hour, you have Justin Thomas, Xander Schauffele, Patrick Reed, Jason Day. In the noon hour, you got Doc Redman, you got Harold Varner III, you also got Lucas Glover, Sung Jae Im, Kim Si-woo, Gary Woodland, Webb Simpson, John Rahm, Sergio Garcia. In the 1 o'clock hour, you got Phil Mickelson, Shane Lowry, Justin Rose, Ricky Fowler, Zach Johnson, Brooks Koepka. This is the loaded hour. Rory McIlroy, Tiger Woods. So you got Tiger in the 1 o'clock hour with a bunch of other big-name golfers and Harry English as well. And then you have two golfers in the 2 o'clock hour, Dylan Fratelli and Graham McDowell. My pick for this tournament is a long shot. Ian Poulter, 90-1. Ian Poulter has played some very good golf over the past couple of weeks. He came in 5th in a tie with Gary Woodland in the Workday Charity Open. In the Rocket Mortgage Classic a couple weeks ago, he wasn't as strong as he was in the other tournament in the Workday. Or wait a minute, or did he not play in this one? I don't really remember. I don't see his name. And then in the Travelers, he played, and he came in 64th, and he had some moments in that tournament. And then about a month ago, in the RBC Heritage, He came in a 14th place tie. So he's been playing very good golf lately. And I'm going to take him here to win the Memorial Tournament at a crazy 90-1. Although I would not rule out Brooks Koepka. I would not rule out Rory. I would not rule out some other guys. Justin Thomas. I think Bryson DeChambeau is a little letdown. I think the week off will help him, but I don't see him winning 2 tournaments in a row that he's participated in. Tiger Woods is overvalued at 26-1, but as you've seen in my bracket of glory, he's been my childhood favorite golfer. I hope he does well here. I do think he'll be relevant coming into Sunday and could potentially finish in the top 20, but I don't think he's going to win. As much as I'd love to see Tiger Woods win, it would be a mega story if he won the Memorial Tournament after having a little bit of a break. Now I'm going to pick the NASCAR Open and the NASCAR All-Star Race, which will both be happening tonight. The starting lineup for the Open: Michael McDowell, Eric Almirola, Christopher Bell, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Tyler Riddick, Bubba Wallace, William Byron, Chris Buescher, Clint Boyer, Matt DiBenedetto, Austin Dillon, Ryan Preece, J.J. Yilley, Garrett Smithley, Brendan Poole, Quinn Houff, Timmy Hill, Joey Gase, Daniel Suarez, John Hunter Nemechek, Ty Dillon, Corey LaJoie. Oh wait, Timmy Hill withdrew from the event, so there's only 21 drivers in here. This was a tough call here in terms of who I like to win this race. I think Bubba Wallace has a shot. I really do. But I'm going to go with Eric Almirola. He's had some close calls. He led a lot of laps in the race last week in Kentucky. And by the way, this is the last Fox broadcast of the season, so no more Mike Joy and Jeff Gordon until next season, unfortunately. Although that's no disrespect to the NBC crew, who I think does a fine job as well. But yeah, Eric Almirola will be my pick to win the Open. And he was plus 650 along with William Byron. I don't remember who the favorite was. I think the favorite was Chris Bell. I'm not 100% sure. Or it might have been Clint Boyer. Clint Boyer's a pretty big name. I think that will be somebody that's going to get a lot of play for the first race tonight. And then the All-Star race. You got Martin Truex Jr. and Alec Bowman, Ryan Blaney, Justin Haley, Kevin Harvick, Matt Kenseth, Kurt Busch, Cole Custer, Brad Keselowski, Kyle Busch, Ryan Newman, Joey Logano, Chase Elliott, Jimmy Johnson, Denny Hamlin, Eric Jones. And then you have the winner of the Open Stage 1, the winner of the Open Stage 2, the winner of the Open Stage 3, and the fan vote winner. So Stage 3, I called it. I think it's going to be Eric Almirola. And I'm going to say that Clint Boyer wins the stage. I'm going to say Bubba Wallace wins the fan vote. That's just appropriate in my opinion. And then Stage 1 winner, I'm going to say Michael McDowell. And by the way, he was 50-1 to win the Open, which I thought was ridiculous. And Michael McDowell's been racing a lot better lately. But for the All-Star race, I'm going to go with Denny Hamlin at 8-1. He almost won Bristol a couple weeks ago. He has some good history at Bristol. So I'm going to go with Denny Hamlin at 8-1, which I think is good value for one of the better drivers in the sport. And Denny Hamlin has done me really well since the restart. So I'm going to go with Denny Hamlin to win the NASCAR All-Star race. Now I'm going to do my rankings for the top Major League Baseball second baseman as we head closer to the season. We are 8 days away, amazingly enough. Tomorrow on the show I'll be doing third baseman. Friday we'll be doing shortstop. Monday I'll be doing the outfielders, and I think I'm going to break them up into left, right, and center field. And then I'm going to do starting pitchers on Tuesday, relievers on Wednesday, and I might do DHs on Monday as well. So, without further ado, my rankings for the top, or my second baseman rankings of 2020 preseason. Number 32, Chris Owings of the Rockies. Chris Owings is somebody that just hasn't panned out as a baseball player. He's on the Diamondbacks, now he's on the Rockies. I don't think he's going to be their starting second baseman. They're just at a platoon situation as projected right now on MLB.com. 31, Nicky Lopez, Royals. Nicky Lopez is somebody that's not a good hitter. He's a fast player. Royals like speed guys. He's a speed guy. 30, Garrett Hampson, Rockies. Another guy that's a candidate to win the second base job and is currently in their little platoon. He just isn't all that special in my mind. 29, Franklin Barreto, Athletics. Franklin Barreto has not panned out to what the Athletics were expecting. He was the jewel of the Josh Donaldson trade back in 2015. Him and Kendall Graveman. Kendall Graveman turned out to be a flop. 28, Jose Peraza, Red Sox. He's obviously slated to be their second baseman. It's Dustin Pedroia, yet again, is not healthy. And then once we get to the spot, I'll say where I would have had Pedroia heading into the season. But I'm not going to do what I did with the catchers with the Buster Posey because that caused a lot of confusion. And I don't think we'll be seeing Dustin Pedroia this year. 27, Izan Diaz, Marlins. Diaz is somebody that was a prospect that called up in the middle of the year last year and had some moments, including, I remember his first big league home run at Citi Field. And by the way, Peraza is someone that's bounced around. He was on Atlanta. He was on the Dodgers. He was on the Reds. 26, Yolmer Sanchez, Giants. He was somebody that was formerly on the Chicago White Sox and now is on the San Fran Giants, replacing Joe Panic as their second baseman. 25, Shed Long, Mariners. Shed Long, interesting player. He's somebody that they got in the trade with the Reds. He initially was in, I believe he was in the he was in the Sonny Gray deal. I had James Paxton on my mind for whatever reason. Or maybe he was in the Sonny Gray deal and then he went in the James Paxton deal. I don't remember how that really played out. Oh, wait. Paxton trade happened before Sonny Gray. So that wouldn't make much sense. Maybe it was like a 3-team deal and then he just wound up on the Mariners instead of the Yankees. But he showed some promise last year as a leadoff hitter. 24, Leury Garcia, White Sox. I'm not convinced that Leury Garcia is going to be the second baseman for the White Sox in September. I think that's going to be the prospect. Nick Madrigal, formerly of Oregon State, there was a top draft pick a couple years ago. And Garcia, I think, is somebody that's more of a utility guy than a second baseman. 23, Hanser Alberto, Orioles. Alberto had some moments for Baltimore last year. He's somebody that hit for average, but not really much for power. 22, Brendan Rodgers, Rockies. I think this is where I would have had Dustin Pedroia right beneath Brendan Rodgers. Brendan Rodgers did not really show much last year, but this ranking is based on what I think he could be this year. I think he'll get better. But if he was going to make a super duper duper jump, like how a couple of these prospects made, like, trying to think of a good example of a prospect that made the super duper jump, they get themselves in a better position. But like, if he does make that kind of a jump this year, he'll certainly be higher on this list. But if Dustin Pedroia was playing, he would have been 23rd. So Alberto, Garcia, Long, Sanchez, Diaz, Peraza, Barreto, Hampson, Lopez, and Owings would have each been a ranking number lower than what they are on my list right now. But yeah, Brandon Rodgers obviously was a top draft pick by the Rockies back in 2015. Had some injury problems. He came up as a shortstop, but they like him at second base because they have the shortstop that's already vacated by Trevor Story, who we talked about yesterday. Or, I'm sorry, we'll be talking about him tomorrow. What am I saying? We haven't even done shortstops yet. Or, sorry, Friday. Number 21, Jason Kipnis, Cubs. Jason Kipnis is someone that's very interesting. He was an MVP candidate in 2013. That's when he really broke out for the Indians, and then he had injury issues and was never really the same. And then the Cubs picked him up in the offseason, and this is another player that I'm not really convinced that he's going to start the season, finish the season as the Cubs second baseman. Nico Hoerner was a prospect that came up in September as an emergency call-up and hit the cover off the ball. So I think that Nico Hoerner could very well challenge for Rookie of the Year and could very well end up being the Cubs second baseman once the season ends, and then maybe they cut Kipnis or use him as a backup. 20, Jurickson Profar, Padres. Jurickson Profar, I think, has been one of the more disappointing players in baseball over the past 5 years or so. He was someone that was highly touted to the point where the Rangers, people were screaming for them to trade Elvis Andrus because this kid was going to be the next big thing. And then they just kept him around, and he's had some injury issues. And then he got traded to Oakland and had some good numbers there. And now the Padres picked him up to be their second baseman. Number 19, Rougned Odor, Rangers. Rougned Odor is somebody that is very polarizing as a player. It's a lot of power, but he also has a lot of strikeouts. So he's one of the more polarizing players in the game. Number 18, Starlin Castro, Nationals. Castro is somebody that I think is a little overrated because he obviously was the talk of the town in Chicago, and they called him up and he was an all-star. And then he was traded to the Yankees and had some good years there, but the problem is with Castro is that he's a terrible defensive player, and the metrics back it up. And although he's a good hitter, and I think he'll benefit from being in Nationals Park, I think that a 20-homer season is not out of the question for him. Not a 20-homer season. If that was in a regular Major League Baseball season, that would have been the case, but maybe like 10 home runs or something. Scott Kingery, Phillies, number 17. Now, Kingery is somebody that had a good year last year. He's a good defensive player. He can play everywhere. His power's improved, but I'm not convinced that he will be as good as he was last year. 16, Jonathan Schoop, Tigers. Schoop is someone that probably should be higher on this list, but considering that he's playing in a small ballpark, I'm not so sure. In a big ballpark, I'm not so sure that Schoop will have productive numbers, although he was very good on the Twins last year, and the Twins obviously play in a big ballpark as well. I think that is somebody, Schoop, that could very well be traded at the deadline to a team that needs help at second base, that could potentially use it. Like if the Red Sox surprise this year, I could see them being a destination. Maybe if the Yankees have some injuries and LeMahieu isn't like fully healthy from the coronavirus, I could see them being a possible destination, but a long shot. Number 15, Robinson Cano, Mets. People will probably say that Cano should be higher on this list, but my issue is that he just is aging, and it seems like he's a player in decline. He was not good last year. I think he'll be better, but I'm not so sure how much better will he be. He's not the Robinson Cano that single-handedly carried the 2013 Yankees team to 85 games, that's for sure. 14, David Fletcher, Angels. David Fletcher, I think, is a little underrated. Leadoff hitter for LA. He's somebody that hits for average. Showed a little power last year as well. 13, Adam Frazier, Pirates. I think these two players are very similar in that they are good average hitters. But Adam Frazier's OPS plus is better than David Fletcher's, so that was the tiebreaker there. 12, Cesar Hernandez, Indians. Cesar Hernandez is a fast player. He's a good defensive player. And by the way, that's another Johnson Schoop candidate if Cesar Hernandez doesn't really pan out at second base for them. But he's a really good defender. He had some good numbers last year. And I think he's a player that's on the rise, but if he doesn't improve or if he gets worse, then I think the Indians could be in the market for a second baseman. 11, Cavan Biggio, Blue Jays. A lot of people are going to be screaming at me that he should be higher, but let's face it, those people are judging that only because of name recognition. Cavan Biggio is a really good up-and-coming player. I think he'll be good for the Blue Jays this year and going forward, but I just think that there are 10 better second basemen coming into the season than Cavan Biggio. That's all. 9, Brandon Lau, Rays. Brandon Lau had some injury issues last year, but before he got injured, he was really good. He was a Rookie of the Year candidate a few years ago, and his bugaboo's been injuries, obviously, and if he's healthy this year, that's a big boost for the Tampa Bay Rays. 9, Colton Wong, Cardinals. Colton Wong is interesting. He's always going to be remembered as the guy that got picked off as first base in the World Series. That perhaps cost the Cardinals that series. That's what everyone in St. Louis will tell you. And obviously, Carlos Beltran to play. We know the story. We talked about it a couple weeks ago when we did the top games of 2012. Of 2013. And Wong is somebody that's a good power hitter. He's fast. Solid defensive player at second base as well. 9, Luis Arraez, Twins. Luis Arraez was awesome for Minnesota last year. I just think that there's going to be a little bit of regression here for him. But I didn't want to put him too low because of how staggering good his numbers were last year. 7, Gavin Lux, Dodgers. Yes, Gavin Lux is still technically considered a rookie, but he's the number 2 prospect in all of baseball for a reason. This kid's going to be special. He's going to be a Dodger for a long time. Him and Corey Seager are the rocks of that middle infield. And Lux, I think, is in for a big year, and he's the clear front runner for me for the National League Rookie of the Year. 6, Mike Moustakas, Reds. I don't think switching to second base will be that big of an issue for Moustakas because he's played third his whole life. So I don't think the move to second will be a big deal. But I loved the signing. I think that hitting in American Ballpark will benefit him. I think that he could have 20-plus home runs this year in the short season in that small of a ballpark. And this guy, if I'm not mistaken, has led the league in homers in the past, or if not, has come close. So I really expect big things from Mike Moustakas this year on the new and improved Cincinnati Reds. 5, Ozzie Albies, Braves. Ozzie Albies is a very polarizing player. He got a contract extension, if I'm not mistaken, it was last season. He's a very streaky player, but he's really good. He's really fast. He plays good defense at second base. His average can be better, and I think it will be better. He, like I said, has great power, and he benefits from being in a lineup featuring Ronald Acuna Jr. and Freddie Freeman. 4, Keston Hiura, Brewers. Keston Hiura is an outstanding hitter. I do question whether his defense is otherworldly, but his hitting alone should be able to keep him on the field. He is awesome, and he is a building block for the Milwaukee Brewers going forward. 3, Jose Altuve, Astros. The reason why Altuve is bumped down on this list is because I still think that there was some cheating going on last year. I think there was a buzzer on his uniform last year. And plus, he's been quietly injury-prone the last few years, and nobody talks about that. Everyone talks about Aaron Judge being injured so much, and George Springer, and Carlos Correa, out of big-name players in Major League Baseball, and I just mentioned a couple of his own teammates. Jose Altuve has been very injury-prone over the last couple of years as well. He had a phenomenal power season last year, although his batting average was surprisingly under 300, but due to injury issues and the cheating from the past couple of years, makes me bump down Jose Altuve. And I don't doubt him at all, by the way. I don't. I think he'll have a good season. But I'm sorry. You cheated, you get penalized. And Jose Altuve gets penalized from me. 2, DJ LeMahieu, Yankees. DJ LeMahieu had a career year last year. 26 homers, hitting over 300. I do think he'll hit over 300 again, but I'd be surprised if he hit double-digit home runs this season because he's not a home run hitter. I was surprised he even got to over 20 last year. Now he's in 162 games. But I do think he'll be hitting the cover off the ball again. He plays outstanding defense at second base. And the Yankees were playing him a lot of different positions last year. But he's going to be primarily their second baseman because Didi Gregorius is finally off the team. So Gleyber Torres can play his normal position at shortstop. And DJ LeMahieu can play his normal position at second base. And number 1, this may surprise you. Ketel Marte, Arizona Diamondbacks. He's been a utility guy for the Diamondbacks the last couple of years, but Marte was unbelievable last year, hitting over 300, over 30 home runs, a ton of RBIs. He deserves his top spot. He really is turning into the player that many people thought he'd be, and that really swung how that trade looks. Everyone talks about Mitch Haniger being that trade and how the Mariners won that trade. Not so fast. The Diamondbacks might have won that trade because Ketel Marte looks like the best player in that trade now. He's unbelievable. So yeah, he gets my top honor for second baseman of 2020 preseason edition, and I do think that he'll have another great year for the Diamondbacks as well. So that's it for the show today. I'll be back tomorrow with my top third baseman of 2020. I will also be going over the KBO games, the NASCAR All-Star Open and Race. I'll be going over the soccer, golf leaderboard, and a lot more. Hope you guys have a great day, everyone.